Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Tasha. I am here today to do my October TBR. So I've got one day left in October, but I figured, I have the time today to film this, so I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that. I am in the middle of 2 books right now that I'm about halfway through with, so if I happen to finish those before midnight tomorrow, then I will just put them down in the description below along with the rest of these books. So I've got my little notebook here of my list of books that I read. I read 28 books in October so far. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about these. I am going to give like brief little comments about them, but because I don't want this video to be an hour long, because I don't think anyone wants to kind of hang around and listen to an hour-long video. Maybe you do, and if you do, that's great. But let's get started. So the first book that I read was book number 2 in the English series. So I read book 1, which was Dirty English by Isla Madden Mills last month. And so I read the second book, Filthy English, this month. Filthy English I gave 2 stars. And this follows Dax, which was Declan in the first book. It's his brother. So this book follows Dax and Remy. And about 2 weeks before Remy's wedding, her fiance dumps her. And so she kind of goes out and has a little one-night stand with this gorgeous British guy. So she wakes up next to Dax the next day and realizes what she had done. So with Dax, here's the thing. Fia was actually somebody from his past, from 3 years ago, and she is the one that broke his heart. And ever since Fia left, he has sworn off all women, basically. I mean, he has, his one-night stands, his little hookups, but he has refused to fall in love. And now Fia's back. So, gets interesting. After that, I read Better Than Chocolate. I did do a brief little review on this. I gave this book 3 stars. It was okay. I didn't love it. This follows, I cannot remember the names. But it's about this girl who moves back home. She ends up trying to save her grandma's chocolate company. And things happen. Like I said, don't really remember a whole lot about it, but I did do it in one of my wrap-ups. I believe it was the Gilmore Girl wrap-up. So I believe I went into a little bit more detail in that, but honestly, I don't remember a whole lot about it. After that, I found this book off of one of those Facebook ads, and it was a Kindle Unlimited book, I believe, and it's called Theirs to Protect by Stacia Black. This is kind of a reverse harem type of book. It's like a post-apocalyptic. I ended up starting it as kind of a joke, and I ended up really enjoying it. I gave it 4 stars. So this follows Audrey. Oh, and the name of the series is The Marriage Raffle. And so this follows Audrey. And Audrey grew up after this great war basically took over and everything, and a virus kind of spread and it started killing off women and children. And so there's only like a handful of women left. And so I can't remember the exact ratio, like 100 men to every 1 woman or something like that. And so basically Audrey grew up in kind of an underground bunker with her brother and her uncle and her cousin. And so it starts out with her and her brother heading to take Audrey to a no man's land, which is basically a community of just women. It's like a women's refugee camp type thing. Well, they end up getting jumped on the side of the road, and her brother gets killed. And So she takes off and she's running from these guys that are after her because she's a woman. So there's bad guys out there that see a woman and they decide, we haven't seen, a woman in so long. They basically, any woman they find, they basically kidnap her, capture her, and take her back, and they become kind of sex slaves for all the men in their group. And so she's running from these guys, and she stumbles upon Nyx, which his real name is Phoenix, but he goes by Nyx. And he ends up trying to saves her from them. And then as they're running away, she's like, okay, bye. Thank you for saving me. I'm leaving now. And he's like, no, you can't leave. So he ends up tranking her to knock her out because she keeps trying to run from him. So he takes them back to this community that has been set up. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in there, and come to find out that a part of this community is that anytime a new woman comes in, she's basically raffled off, and they do a marriage raffle. And what it is they draw 5 names of 5 different men who are going to marry this woman. And so it's a law that every woman has to marry 5 men at the same time. So with her, she tries to escape, can't escape, and I think she tries like a couple of times, but she can't ever escape. And so she decides to kind of go along with them for now and play nice, hoping that she can get them off their guard. And so she ends up marrying these 5 men, and she decides that she's still going to try to escape. Well, she finally does get away. Stuff happens, and I'll leave that for you guys to find out if you guys so choose to read this. But her husbands are Nyx, Clark, Graham, Mateo, and Danny. And let me tell you, talk about a wide range of personalities. All 5 of these men have a different personality, which I think definitely works. And I'm not really one for like the whole menage a trois type thing, but this one was good. And if you don't like books about multiple men having sex with one woman at the same time, don't read this. Nothing happens like as far as the men doing things to men or anything like that. They are strictly there for her. But it was really good. I actually enjoyed it, and I'm actually looking forward to reading the second book because somebody that we thought was gone in the first book comes back. So I'm looking forward to reading that. The next book was Autumn Winds by Charlotte Hubbard. This was an Amish romance, and honestly, I don't really remember anything about it. I gave it 2 stars, but really, it may have been more of kind of a 3 stars. I did not really enjoy it that much. I did finish it only because I had it on audiobook, and I kind of listened to it while I was at work, and I found myself zoning out a lot during it. But yeah. The next one is Spider by Isla. I really wish I knew how to pronounce that properly. Madden Mills, and she's the one that wrote the English series. So Spider is kind of a companion novel. We do meet Spider in, I believe it is Filthy English, I believe. So we do meet Spider in, like I said, I believe it's Filthy English. And he is basically a bad boy rock star. He is into drugs, drinking, women, the whole bad boy rocker vibe, right? And that is until he meets Rose, which is a girl that he meets on a plane on his way back home to meet his dad. His dad has gotten married, and he has a new stepmom and stepsister, and he wants him to come and meet his new family, or his stepmom and stepsister, which him and his dad have had a huge falling out. They don't talk. He never goes home or anything like that, but he decides he'll humor him and he'll go home to meet the new stepmom and stepsister. Once he gets there, what he doesn't realize till he gets home is that the new stepsister is the girl from the plane. And Spider is used to having women fall all over him. I mean, he's a bad boy rocker. I mean, come on. So when Rose doesn't feed into all that drama, he kind of gets intrigued a little bit. And now he has a new stepsister, which is this girl that was on the plane that had kind of piqued his interest a little bit. And so does love bloom between them after all, even though they're step siblings? Maybe. Just have to read it and find out. But no, Spider was good. I gave that 4 stars as well. Obviously, we all know I read the Kiss Quotient. Also, that was the one book review that I have done so far, and 5 stars. Don't really need to go into a whole lot of detail about it. Everyone knows basically what it's about. It's about Stella, who has Asperger's, who falls in love with Michael, her hired escort. Like I said, don't even really say a whole lot about it. I did a book review about it. I will link it down below if you want to check that out, if you don't know what the book's about or anything like that. Then I read the 22nd book in the Arsenault series. I believe now I have talked about the Arsenault series in every single video that I've done. And that probably won't change. This is my favorite series of all time. And this book, it was called About a Vampire. And if I didn't say, it's by Lindsay Sands. And this book followed Bricker, which is he is my favorite of all the characters in every single book that I've read so far. He is and has been my favorite book. And this one took an interesting twist on the whole life mate thing, because normally in every book they'll find their life mate, and I mean, they go through all the drama of, meeting their life mate and courting their life mate and talking the other person into being their life mate. But what happens with Bricker, his life mate's married, and it's one of their biggest laws is they cannot interfere with a human marriage. And so she's happily married. He has given crap to all the people that have found their life mates in every book that he has been in since he first appeared in the series. Every time I don't want to say harass. I said harass in my other video. I don't really want to say harass, but he gives them crap. He messes with them because they basically turn into these big softies, these hard-ass vampire immortals. They turn into these softies and try to woo their girlfriends, and then once they finally get them, they can't keep their hands off of them, and they are, it's paranormal romance. But so now that it's Bricker's turn, and not only has he found his life mate, so everyone is excited to give him crap about, but he can't claim his life mate because she's married. So they start giving him major crap about it. They start telling him things that she loves to kind of give him ideas, because he can kind of get her to like him, and then if it's her decision to leave her husband to be with him, that's fine. But he cannot in any way try to get in between them, if that makes any sense. And so two of the guys that are with him, who can read her mind and have gotten to know her a little bit, know the things that she absolutely hates. And so instead of telling Bricker that she absolutely hates these things, they tell him she absolutely loves these things. So he's trying to court her by making her dinner one night and taking her on a picnic and doing all this stuff for her. And she hates it all. But she's so sweet, and she feels bad because she knows he's trying, and she doesn't want to hurt his feelings. But then at the very end of the book, he finally, just like, I give up. I'm done. Nothing's working. She's in love with her husband. I'm just destined to be alone for the rest of my life. And come to find out, something happens at the very end of the book that I did not see coming with her husband that frees her up to be with Bricker. After that, I read an entire series, and I'm just going to briefly go over just little bit because there are 7 books that I read in the series, and they were all on the Audible Escape, and I think they were like 5 or 6 hours long and 2 times the speed. So I finished like 1 or 2 in a day while I was at work. So this was the Biker series by Cassie Alexandria, and I gave these books between 3 to 4 stars. Some of them I gave 3, some of them I gave 4. There was 6 books and 1 novella that I read, and I mean, I enjoyed them. I mean, they were good, they were worth it. I wouldn't pay for them. So if you have Audible Escape or you have the Kindle Unlimited, I do believe they are on Kindle Unlimited as well. They're definitely worth reading. I mean, I enjoyed them. I just didn't love them. I wouldn't spend money on them. So the first book was Resisting the Biker. This followed Raptor, which was the road captain of the Gold Vipers, which is the MC that he's a part of, and Adriana. That one I did give 3 stars. The second book is Surviving the Biker, which is kind of a continuation of Raptor and Adriana's story and the war between his MC, the Gold Vipers, and the Devil's Rangers, which is the rival MC. Then the third book is Fearing the Biker, and this follows Jordan Still, which is the judge, which we do find out later is Raptor's half-brother. And I believe we actually find that out in the first or second book. He is not a part of any MC. Judge is a mercenary, and he is a very good one, and he's the one that they contact when they need things done that is not going to fall back on the MC. So his book is about him and Jessica, which is Slammer, which is the current president of the MC. This follows their story, and it is so sweet, and definitely I really enjoyed this one because Jessica has some issues with something that happened at the very beginning of the first book, and it has really made it to where she can't trust anyone and cannot really stand to be around men, really. And so the fact that she finds love with Jordan, or the judge, was really awesome. Then the fourth book was Breaking the Biker, which follows Tank, which is the new president of the MC, and Raina, who she appears in the book before this one. Her 2-year-old son was killed by a rival motorcycle group during an MC party that the babysitter had taken her son to, and so she's out for revenge, and she gets told that Slammer, which is the president, was the one that ordered the hit, and so she's out for revenge. But the truth does finally come out in Breaking the Biker, which is the fourth book, and her and Tank, the new president, kind of get closer. Then after that, we have Taming the Biker, which follows Tell and Lauren. And this is kind of a novella length book. It is labeled as its own like full book, but it can be read as a standalone. I don't like reading these as standalones just because people from the previous books are in them, but it's a shorter one. And after a one-night stand kind of fling, Lauren finds herself pregnant and has to decide what she's going to do. So that is their book. The sixth book in the series was Loving the Biker. This is about Taryn O'Brien, which is a detective who is currently investigating the Gold Vipers. And her main suspect is Cole Davis, which I believe gets the road name Ice in this book. He is a new member of the Gold Vipers. And by investigating him, they kind of get a little close. And she has to, decide whether she wants her business, her career, or love. And so that was that book. And then the next one is actually a novella. It's called Christmas with a Biker. Even though it is a novella, it follows its own characters, which is Dodge, who they find out is Raptor and Jordan's um, long lost brother, half brother, that they did not know about. And he actually prospects for the group. And he is a Scrooge. He hates Christmas. He just absolutely hates it. And so, because of that, Raptor pulls him in to be Santa Claus for a couple of the things that the MC is doing. And one of those is handing out toys at this kids hospital that where kids with cancer are at. And so by doing that and doing this huge fundraiser, and I believe they go to nursing homes and stuff like that and hand out gifts and stuff, he meets Chloe, who is a nurse at the hospital, and love blooms during the holiday season. After that, I listened to Talking as Fast as I Can by Lauren Graham. This is Lauren Graham's kind of memoir about from when she was growing up and through when she did the Gilmore Girls and the Year in the Life part of Gilmore Girls and Parenthood and all that. And I will say the audiobook was amazing. She narrates it herself, and so she's got that same quirky attitude that she does in the show, and I laugh through it. But I will say definitely either get a hold of the book or the ebook, because she's got pictures in it that go along with what she's talking about. So that was really cool to see. Then I read Inked by Lauren Landish. This was the first book in the Bad Boy Next Door series. I gave this three stars. I gave this 3 stars. This is about Madeline, who moves with her friend Katie when they go to college. And she meets her next door neighbor, Zane, who owns his own tattoo parlor. She starts getting to know Zane, but then she noticed she was at the wrong place at the wrong time. She was at the tattoo parlor when she noticed that a van was in the back of the tattoo parlor was being loaded up with drugs. So it put her in danger. Stuff happens. Come to find out, Zane was actually working with the mob. He himself wasn't working for the mob, but his past and the people that he has had in his life and his tattoo parlor, he's gotten the money from them to open the tattoo parlor and everything. And so he has to allow them to use the back of his shop and storage at the shop for drugs and stuff like that. And so, I mean, you can kind of guess where this is going there. So that one was pretty good. I mean, it was 3 stars, so it wasn't one that I loved, but I enjoyed it. It was cute. Then I read A Stranger in the House by Shari Lapina. I'm not sure if I pronounced that wrong. This was a thriller about Karen, and Karen had gotten in an accident, and she had amnesia. Doesn't remember leaving her house, doesn't remember anything that happened or why she was driving and had gotten into the car accident. Police are very suspicious about her sudden amnesia, about why she was driving like a maniac and wrecked her car. And they get even more suspicious when a dead body shows up in the area where her car was, where she wrecked her car. So they start questioning everyone around her, questioning her husband, the neighbors, all of that. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail because I think thrillers should really be gone. I think people should go into thrillers really not knowing a whole lot about it. And even though I only did 3 stars, I really enjoyed this book. It was pretty predictable throughout the whole entire book, but the very last part of the book, I suspected, but I didn't see it coming. I had suspected but at the end of the book, that was kind of the way it was. But after reading the rest of the book, I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not the way it was. And my suspicions ended up being wrong, but it had given me just enough doubt that I didn't see it coming. So I did enjoy that one. I would recommend it. But the fact that it was so predictable is the reason I gave it 3 stars. Then I read another series, MC series, which was also on the Audible Escape called the No Prisoners MC. This was by Lily Atlas. And I gave all of these 5 stars. So, sneak peek into my upcoming 5-star MC recommendations video. This whole series was awesome. There are 5 books and 1 novella. Now, I usually, if there's like an 0.5 novella that comes that's before book 1, I usually don't read it right away. I'll usually wait. But I will recommend, I mean, you can do it either way. That's the way I did it this time. But Hook, who is in book 1, and his old lady are in book 1. Well, the novella before that is about Hook and his old lady and how they met and how they kind of came to be. So they actually knew each other before, went their separate ways, and then met back up. So the novella, the 0.5, is Hook. And that, like I said, that follows Hook and Marcy. Book 1 is Stryker, and this follows Stryker and Dr. Lila, which is an ER doctor who is very, very used to patching up the MC members when they end up coming into the ER. The second book is Jester's book. This follows Jester and first grade teacher Emily, and their story was a good one. Emily was actually brought in from the Grimm Brothers MC because they were threatening her brother, who was a prospect. And so Emily, in order to save her brother's life, agreed to go kind of undercover, I guess you could say, into the No Prisoners MC to get information for him. So she goes in with some of the club girls and ends up kind of hanging out with Jester, and they end up falling for each other, and stuff happens. I'm not going to go into details because, I mean, if you've read any MC books, you probably know that a lot of drama is going to happen in there. The third book is Acer's book, and this is about him and Fia. Him and Fia have a history together, and they had went their separate ways also in the past and then come back, and when she comes back into the scene, it's because she had been attacked by a madman, and the only person that she can think of to go to for protection is Acer. And so this is that's their story. The fourth book is about Lucky and Corey. And Lucky is a part of the Las Vegas No Prisoners chapter, and Corey is actually from Florida. And her mom is an old lady to a MC down in Florida, and she dies. Well, on her deathbed, she tells her about a box that is hidden in her closet. So when she dies, Corey goes and pulls out this box out of her closet and finds out that her birth father, who she had asked about a couple of times growing up, and her mom refused to talk to her about it, is actually the president of a motorcycle club in Las Vegas called the No Prisoners. So she decides, I've got nothing left here for me. So she decides to go to Las Vegas to track down her biological father. And at first, she's super excited. He seems excited to see her and everything. And then she starts hanging out with Lucky. And her dad has other plans for her, which may involve his vice president, and starts blackmailing her. Yeah, not good. And then Lucky ends up leaving and going to the original No Prisoners chapter. And things happen. Then the fifth book I was not excited about, really. I didn't even know why it was in the series. It took me a little bit to work up to wanting to read it. This is about Snake. And Snake is actually the president of the Grimm Brothers MC, which is this awful, awful MC that is they're the rivals of the No Prisoners. And Snake makes appearances in the other books, and he is a nasty man. He's got his tongue forked like a snake's tongue. He's awful. He is all about, abusing women. I mean, okay, maybe not necessarily abusing women, but he definitely believes that women are there just to pleasure him. And he's a ruthless, mean person. So I was not looking forward to reading his book. I was just like, I don't like Snake. Why would I want to read his book? I finally read it, and I'm glad I did, because at the end of the series, I believe it may have been Lucky's book or Acer's book. I can't remember which book it was, but they basically kicked the shit out of Snake, beat him to a pulp, leave him for dead. His MC turns his back on him and actually had shot him and left him for dead. Their mistake, though, they did not make sure he was dead before they left. And he was found and saved, and now he is in kind of a rehab type place. He falls for his physical therapist, so he gets a second chance at living a life of love and caring and stuff like that. But his past may or may not come back to kind of haunt him a little bit. So does he choose to go back with his MC? Does he choose to stay with her and live this new life? You'll find out. After that, I finally got the time to finish Dark Lover by J.R. Ward. I gave it a 4 stars, but I really did enjoy it. This followed Wrath and Beth, which Beth is one of his best friend's daughters that no one knew about until he confronts Wrath about the fact that she's half human and half vampire, and she's about the age where she's going to start the change over to vampire soon, but she's going to need a male vampire to feed off of and to help her with that transition, or she's going to die. So he approaches Wrath to see if, because he's one of the only pure vampires left, and so he approaches Wrath to see if he will take on this duty of helping her transition, and Wrath's like, no. Well, unfortunately, his friend ends up dying, getting murdered that night, and so in memory of his friend, he decides that, okay, I will do this for him, not realizing that he would fall in love with Beth. So this story is about them and their relationship and her transitioning and everything like that. And the sacrifices that Wrath ends up making, because he is technically the king of vampires, but he doesn't want to be king. And so he ends up making the sacrifice of being king so that way he can be with Beth. And so I absolutely loved their story. It was so sweet. After that, I read Dark Wolf by Christine Feehan. This was the 22nd book in the Dark series. This story followed Skylar and Dimitri, and I absolutely loved it. Dimitri is kind of a mixed blood. He is part Carpathian and part Lycan. He was not originally a mixed blood, but over the centuries of being out in the field and hunting vampires and getting wounded and stuff, he had consumed some Lycan blood, and now he is a mixed blood, which is looked down upon by the Lycan species. They believe that the mixed bloods are evil, and so when they find out that he is mixed blood, they capture him. And now Skylar is going out with a couple of her friends to rescue him, and by doing that, some very bad things happen, which set off the Carpathians in general, because there's a lot of people that basically are Skylar's family. And I mean, she's got her adoptive parents, she's got her birth dad and now new stepmom, she's got sisters and aunts, and then the prince of the Carpathians, and all these people that have taken her in and love her. And it almost sets off a war between the two species as they're trying to kind of create an alliance with each other. And so this was a very good one. I really enjoyed it. I gave that one 5 stars. After that, I read Tempted, which was the the second book in the Bad Boy Next Door series by Lauren Landish. I gave this one 4 stars. This one follows Liam and Elizabeth. And in this one, Elizabeth, her stepdad passes away, and she is basically called to the lawyer's office for the reading of the will. And Liam is there, and she has no idea who Liam is. She's never met him, and she doesn't know why he would be there. She doesn't know that Liam and her father knew each other. But also, what she doesn't see coming is her father, all but the house that he was currently living in, left absolutely everything, her entire inheritance besides the one house, to Liam. And I guess there was kind of an ulterior motive there. Her stepfather was trying to, I guess, hook her and Liam up. So he agrees to give her her entire inheritance if she goes out on a date with him. And at first she refuses, but I mean, it's a romance, so I'm sure we probably know what happens there. After that, I read Lover Eternal, which is the second book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, and I gave this one a 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It was heart-wrenching and sweet, and I was extremely happy with the way it ended. I was literally on the verge of tears. I don't really cry in books. I've only 2 books have ever made me cry in my entire life, and I was literally on the verge of tears when I was reading this towards the end, because Mary Luce, which is the love interest, she's human, so she cannot be vampire. And this follows Rage, and Rage has a punishment that he has to serve out because of something that he did in his past. And with this punishment, he basically has a beast that lives within him. And anytime he gets like overly emotional or like super angry or anything like that, the beast takes over and comes out, and he turns into this beast. And no one can control him. He'll go after and kill anybody, friend or foe, doesn't matter, until Mary Luce comes into play. Mary Luce can tame the beast within him and can tame the beast itself. And I absolutely loved it. And it was so sad because I knew in the end there was no way they could be together, because she, at least not for any period of time, because there was things going on in her life that would stop it. She's human, so she couldn't change to be a vampire. And then the ending happened, and I was so excited. It made me so happy. And Zadist starts coming into play a little bit. I mean, they introduced Zadist in the first book, and you kind of get a little glimpse of him and how he's not really a nice person. And in this book, he is in it a little bit more. And I've heard everyone talk about Zadist, and I was not super excited about Zadist's book. I did not like him at all in this book, and I really didn't understand how he can be everyone's favorite out of all of these Black Dagger Brotherhood members, until towards the end of the book, when something happens and you see a different side of Zadist. And I was like, okay, I can see where this is kind of going, and you're seeing that other side of him, the more vulnerable side. And now I am super excited for the third book. The last book that I read is The Hunt by Millie Taden. I gave this 4 stars. This ended up being a book that I had found on Kindle Unlimited. It's a shifter romance, and it had a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin on the cover, so I was like, perfect for Halloween. And this was a good one. This followed Dax Birch and Willow Myers. Willow is a human, and Dax is a wolf shifter, who is in line for Alpha. He is the heir to be Alpha when his dad passes. And every year they have what they call the Hunt, and it's basically a shifter get together. It's like a mating get together where male and female shifters come together. They have to drink this shot that basically stops their senses, so they can't smell their mate or anything like that. They have to go off of instinct, and it basically ends up turning into this like huge sex orgy type thing. And Dax's sister notices that somehow Willow got an invite to this party, and she wasn't supposed to be there because she is human, and she ends up hiding her away to kind of protect her, but in the same sense knows that Dax, her big brother, does not want to partake in the hunt, but he has to be there because his parents have basically told him he has no choice, he has to be there. And so she ends up sending them both separately into this maze where they accidentally bump into each other, and love blooms. But so that is what I've read so far in October. I am in the middle of 2 books right now. Dax, another Dax. I'm in the middle of Dax, which is another MC, first book in an MC romance. I am currently reading that one, and I am also listening on Audible to a book that I heard about from Jessica over at Peace Love Books called Raise. And this is a dark mafia romance. And I'm about halfway through both of them, and I am absolutely loving them. So if I finish one or both of those before midnight tomorrow, I will add those down in the description as books that I finished this month. As of right now, I have read 28. Hopefully I can up that to 30, but we'll see. If you had done a wrap up, let me know down below. I'd love to see what books you guys have read this month. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell next to it so you know whenever I upload my videos. And like this video, help me out there. As well as share. Tell all your friends about my channel. Have them come by, especially if you love romance of any type. So for now, that is it. That's all I have for you today. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week. Here in Oklahoma, it is cold and rainy and chilly. I believe winter has decided to come early this year. It doesn't seem to be ending, but that's okay. So it's given me a lot of reading time in. So I hope everyone's having a wonderful week and get some reading done. Bye.